Recent information from TEA has given us insight into the changes in accountability. Domain 1 is going to be comprised of different indicators from STAR. The percentage of students performing at each level will be averaged together. This video will help administrators understand how to use assessment data in AWARE to identify students that are close to reaching the next performance level, also known as bubble students, to assist in the planning process. After you have logged into Eduphoria Aware, you need to decide the type of assessment data that you would like to look at. For the purpose of this video, we're going to access a district benchmark for 5th grade reading. We're going to open the Quick View folder. Inside the Quick View folder, you will see a list of all of the different type of data available. I'm going to open District Benchmark 2017-2018, 5th grade, reading, and then I'm going to choose the English benchmark. After you have accessed the information you're looking at, you're going to see it by campus first. We actually want to look at the individual student information for the purpose of what we are learning how to do, which is identify bubble students. So if you click on individual students, you're going to see the student's name, you'll see their raw score, their percent score, and then you will see the different performance levels: approaches, meets, and masters. These 3 columns are actually interactive. For example, if I click on the approaches column, it sorts students by who did not approach, and then those who did will be listed at the bottom. If I click this again, this time I get my students who were at approaches listed at the top. I'm actually going to show you the importance of this by using masters. If I single click on masters, I get my no's listed at the top, but I'm going to single click it again because I actually want to know who those students are that are a yes. These students are going to be important to monitor from assessment to assessment because in order to maintain that master's performance level, it's going to take some very important planning to help those students continue to be successful. Now that you know how to sort and find the students who performed at these different levels, I want to show you how to edit this quick view in order to identify bubble students. In order to do that, we're going to need to click the Edit button, which is up towards the middle of your screen. When you click the Edit button, you're actually behind the scenes of how this data is compiled. The Tables tab tells you which assessment you are looking at. The Columns tab tells you what information is in each column. And the Summarize tab defines for you some specific information about each student. For example, their ethnicity or whether or not they are EcoDis or special ed. We're going to go back to the Columns tab in order to find our bubble students. The first category that we're going to find bubble students for is the approaches category. In order to do that, we're going to need to click on raw score, and we're going to need to add a filter. But knowing which filter to add is important. In order to determine that, we're going to use this information from the district website that will help us understand what performance level a student had to be at in order to be considered approaches. So for the 5th grade reading benchmark, a student had to get 16 items correct, or a 57%, in order to be considered approaches. So we want to find students who were close to this 16 questions correct. So when I click on raw score and I indicate that I want to add a filter, we want to find students that performed less than a 16 because those students did not make it to approaches. I'm going to choose to add another filter, and this time I want to find students that performed greater than a 12. And the reason why I'm choosing a 12, because that means that students would have either gotten 13, 14, or 15 questions right according to my first filter that I have defined. And by doing that, I have found students that are 3 questions away from being approaches. I'm going to click back on this first filter because I want to show you something that's really important. Do you see here how this indicates or? I don't want that to be or less than 16 or greater than 12. I actually want that to be and, because they need to meet both of these requirements in order to be considered a bubble student. We're trying to find the students, like I said before, that got either 13, 14, or 15 questions right. Okay? So if I click back on raw score, I can see that I'm going to find students less than a 16 and greater than a 12. I'm going to come back down here in the bottom right-hand corner, and I'm going to click Update. When you click Update, you will now have a smaller list of students on your screen than you originally had. I can tell that it has applied the filter because if I look down my raw score column, all of the numbers are either a 13, 14, or 15. If I click on raw score, actually sort these students from lowest to highest. So this list of students here, these are my bubble students for approaches. These are my students who are really close to passing that reading benchmark. Once I have this information, I have a couple of choices. I can save it, and it will put it over here in my saved views, or I can print it also to Excel or PDF. I recommend saving so that you don't have to dig out this information again, and also going ahead and exporting to Excel so that you can manipulate this information however you need to. Now that we have identified who our students are that were bubble students for approaches, we actually don't want to stop there. Based on the new information from TEA about accountability, we know that our students who are at meets and masters are going to be just as important. Just getting students to approaches is no longer where we can stop when it comes to considering the plan for how we're going to get kids to make progress. We also want to consider kids that are in these indicators, as we always have, but now there's even more emphasis on progress for all students. So we're going to now look at how do we identify bubble students for meets. So I'm going to go back to Edit, and I'm going to look back at the information from the district website. And in order for a student on this particular benchmark, this reading 5th grade benchmark, in order for them to be meets, they had to score a 22. So I'm looking for students who are just 2 or 3 questions away from a score of a 22 or about a 78, 79%. And those are my students who are considered bubble students for meets. So I need to change my filter now. And instead of scoring a 16, I want students who scored less than a 22. And I want students who are greater than an 18. By doing this, I'm going to have students who scored a 19, 20, or 21. So they were 3 questions away from a meets performance level. I'm going to click Update again. And when I do that, I know my filter has been applied because notice my raw scores are all between that 18 and 22. And if I scroll over, I didn't show you this before, but it actually will show me now that these students all have a yes for approaches, but notice they have a no for meets because we've identified our bubble students now for the meets performance indicator. I can sort these students again. Click on raw score, I get them from lowest to highest. If I click raw score again, I get them from highest to lowest. So these kiddos right here were just 1 question away from that next performance level. This information, again, I can save it or I can print it, and I will be able to manipulate that data how I need to. So far, we have identified bubble students who were close to approaches, and then we identified our bubble students who were close to meets. Now we want to identify those students who were really close to the master's level. So we're going to go back to edit again. I'm going to look back at the information provided by the district, and I can see that in order for students to perform at masters, they had to get 25 questions right. So I'm going to want to find students that were just within 1 or 2 questions of getting 25 right. So this time my raw score is going to be less than 25. And I'm going to put this one at greater than 22, because remember a 22 is what they had in order to be approaches. So in order to get masters, it's just a few more questions, right? And then those students make the master's performance indicator. So if I put this at a greater than a 22, it's going to give me those students that got 23 or 24 right. So they were either 1 or 2 questions away from the master's performance level. So I'm going to click update again. And now I get my list of students who I can look here and see their raw score was a 23 or 24. It indicates here that these students were indeed at approaches and meets, but they did not quite make masters. Same thing as before, this information can be saved. It can be printed to Excel or PDF, and then you have the information you need in order to help support planning for these students. I hope this video has been informative and helped you find some more of the information that you need in Aware. If you are in need of more help, you are welcome to reach out to our department, and we would be happy to come out and support you, your teachers, or anyone else at your campus. But in the meantime, please visit our website under Departments, A through C, Aware. And on this website, we have a lot of different information on how to do different actions in Aware. And we have a few different handouts and different videos embedded throughout. So thank you so much for viewing this video, and please let us know how we can assist you further.